What are the uses, I suppose, of swearing in the workplace?
Just the waters, throw a swear word out, everyone kind of relaxes, and it kind of just sort of brings, I personally feel it kind of brings the best out of people.
I fully endorse your tactic, because I think I was going to ask a question as to whether we're ticking the explicit language box on our podcast tonight.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want, Ryan. Fuck yeah. Come on, Joe, give us one.
Yeah.
Inspiration Nation, hello, Lee Kemp here for another week on the podcast. As always, with my very good friends, Jose Noya, and the slightly worse for wear, Ryan Boniface. He is struck with COVID this week, so he is here with us, but he might not be his usual chatty self. How are we doing both? Well, obviously I've said how you're doing, Ryan, but how are you doing, guys?
Yeah, not bad. Well, not bad for what it is, but yeah, surviving.
We're good. Thanks, Lee.
Glad to hear that. We're also joined, those watching on YouTube will see, we have Wes joining us, who Joe has brought on the show as a guest. How are you doing, Wes?
He disappeared.
With technical issues. He may be back. I'm going to plow through with some shilling while Joe sorts out the technical issues.
Nice.
So, of course, we thank everyone for listening and downloading. Check us out social media at ListenToIN, ListenToIN, and of course head over to InspirationNation.org.uk for everything to do with the nation. Again, if you're watching YouTube, you will see I'm modelling a new hoodie. This is a quote from a few weeks ago. I can't even remember which one of us said this now, but the quote is, "Life will punch you in the face. How will you respond?" Which I just absolutely loved. T-shirts and hoodies of that, along with the usual mugs, t-shirts, face masks, all that good jazz over at the store. Again, inspirationnation.org.uk. This week's episode is Joe's. He's brought a guest to talk to us. We are going to talk about a topic I'm very much looking forward to. I don't want to steal their thunder, but I'm padding this out as long as I can till we get
Keep
there.
going. You got to keep going.
Well, I'll give it a go. I'll talk about, and it's been a few weeks since I did this, start of the year, in a resolution-y way, I was going to do this kind of lead time thing where I kind of have bits of the day in the morning that I take out for myself. So having a bit of a list of things to do. I would say I've had good weeks and bad weeks with it, but I'm definitely moving through my list. I've sorted out pretty much every drawer in the house now of clutter, which has been good. I've also started work on, you can see behind me, there's a door that is half fitted to the wall. I do a bit of that in my morning time as well. And I have started digging out the garden. So using a bit of that time sensibly so that it doesn't eat to the evening, eat to the weekend, which has gone quite well for me. I've been completely abandoned here. Joe's fixing technical issues with Wes, and Ryan is taking himself off camera. So on YouTube right now, I'm afraid you are just looking at Lee. So we're on the other side of our technical issues. Ryan would have seamlessly edited this all together, so much so that you wouldn't even know there's a problem if I wasn't saying this. So, Jose, what is the subject for this week, and what have you brought Wes in to talk about with the nation?
Well, let me hand it over to Wes. Wes, I'm going to hand you over to introduce the subject, so off you go.
The subject is swearing in the workplace.
Oh, I like this.
Acceptable or not.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about why you think this is something you want to choose, and I'm getting super uncomfortable already just talking about this.
I love this.
I think that's why I chose it, Joe. I know that you're super uncomfortable with it because we've worked alongside each other for so long, and you don't like it, and I do it.
Yeah. So go on and tell us what. So go on, Lee, you're going to say.
I was just going to say very quickly, and I won't bite in too much, but round the table, our views on swearing at work. So obviously, Wes, you are a fan. Ryan, what is your view with a bit of casual swearing in the workplace?
I'm a fan.
I also, me and Joe, I'm sure, Wes, you've had the same. Obviously, so people, know me and Joe used to work together. Wes currently works with Joe, and I'm sure we've had the same conversation because not only am I a fan of it, I deliberately use casual swearing as a tactic to relax people when I'm hosting meetings and that sort of thing. So it's a deliberate part of my arsenal, which is very contrary to my good friend Jose Noya, who very much does not like swearing in the workplace, to put words in your mouth. Would that be right?
Yeah, I struggle with it, don't I? I just struggle with it. I have sworn, I do swear, but it's very, very minimal. but I don't tend to do it in the workplace. So that's why I just struggle with it. So yeah, and I'm thinking, just trying to think, where would this be, inspirational wise, and trying to link it to an inspirational piece. And I'm going to just reveal that thought later though. So I'll let Wes sort of like talk to us about. So Wes, talk to us about how you view swearing in the workplace, and what are the uses, I suppose, of swearing in the workplace. At least as use it as a tactic. What do you think it brings?
So for me, I've always used it very similar to what's been said already, especially from a training perspective. I've always used it just to kind of sort of calm the air a little bit, especially as a previous trainer when you're bringing people into an organization. I just kind of feel like it grounds people a little bit, test the waters, throw a swear word out, everyone kind of relaxes, and it kind of just sort of brings, I personally feel it kind of brings the best out of people after that. Once you've got them calm and relaxed in a room, the day one joining a business can be quite nervous. So I feel like just throwing it out works for me. It's worked for me, shall I say.
I fully endorse your tactic, because I think there's always that risk that if you're a trainer, or if you're a coach, or you're like a senior manager or something like that, it's kind of like teacher syndrome, where I think people think that when work finishes, like when school finishes, you just go in a cupboard somewhere and power down and wait for the next day to go back into work mode. I remember once having a talk with people at work, and they were shocked that I go home and watch Family Guy. It was, I don't know if they thought I'd go home and watch insurance documentaries all evening or something like that. But it's one of those grounding things. And I think it's just, it's a really good way to humanize things and take, it kind of puts everyone on the same level, because there's always that worry, again, when you're in the room with certain people, that they'll be observing you in a certain way, or they'll, you can't talk out of place and stuff like that. And again, I think I find it takes all that negative energy out of the room if you do things like that. So in fact, I did a session literally last Thursday, which is a mix of about 30 people in the room, people I knew and work with, some external people as well. And not only do I deliberately swear, I then caveat why I deliberately swear, and hopefully everyone in the room likes it. It normally gets a chuckle, and then you get to move on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you never want to offend anyone, so good to sort of preface it in any room. When you're standing up there talking in front of people or hosting meetings, etc. It's always good to preface it. But I like the way you use the word humanises people. I think it does. I think it just grounds everyone, and we'll move on from there. And I do, I never swear at people, just to put that out there.
Yeah.
It's always used in context. It's never to offend or insult anyone. It's just an expression. It relieves a little bit of stress for me, I feel like, and I also feel like it's an expression to get my point across a little bit more. When I throw the occasional F-bomb or whatever it might be, it tends to come across a little bit stronger. I tend to think people believe it more.
Yeah, I can see that.
Add that element in.
And I think the not swearing at people is a good context as well, because I didn't think about that, but that's the same for me. Is I'll use it to emphasise things I'm saying, or when I'm telling a story about myself, but I wouldn't, say that. So, and I'll keep it as F's and S's. There's no C's in the room ever. Keep it at a level. I wondered on this actually, and I was very deliberate in our preamble, which was helped by technical issues because it cut down our preamble. I was going to ask a question as to whether we're ticking the explicit language box on our podcast tonight, and we're going to drop yeah, that's what I want, Ryan. Fuck yeah. Come on, Joe, give us one.
Yeah.
So Wes, tell us, I've had the conversations with Joe, and it's good. The other bit is I suppose the comfort or not on it. And I'm not saying that this is a tactic everyone should use, or that it's wrong if you don't do it or anything like that. But obviously we all have like what our boundaries are and what we're comfortable with, what we're not. So what have your conversations been like with our mutual friend Joe in the past on this topic?
So Joe's always been against it. He doesn't necessarily. I honestly, we've co-delivered together, and I think he sits there sort of cringing in a chair, or trying to hide himself sometimes because of the amount that I can swear. So I've always interested to have, the reason why this topic came up so much is because I've always said to him, I don't understand why you don't swear, and I still really don't understand why he doesn't. So I guess that's more of a question for Joe. Why don't you swear at work?
That's it. What's your side of the coin?
I suppose because I suppose it's part of my upbringing that it was part of, it was, I suppose, part of that we just didn't swear really. And I suppose that's where it's sort of like a value that I have. But I do swear, but I think for me, I just don't like, I use it, if I'm going to swear, it's going to be when I'm really quite emotional. And to really, if I'm swearing, it's because if I swear, it means because I'm very, very emotional at that point. And the reason I don't swear is because I suppose there's that element that I want to stay controlled. But does that then restrict the passion? Because, I just feel I don't want to offend anyone. I know you said about the context behind it, and it is important, but I think I could get that wrong, and it could go terribly wrong if I use it. And I suppose there's a bit of fear behind it. Whereas I probably play a little bit safe and use my other tools like that I'll just get people on board and just by, I suppose appealing in a way that's other than swearing, like, just your usual sort of approaches where you have conversations in a way that you try and get as honest as possible. But if someone swears, then actually I'm just trying to think if I've had anybody swear when I've not been swearing. And actually, you're right. So I have not had anyone swear in my room because I haven't sworn. But I did. I think I did. I think I might have used the S word today. I might have used the word shit today.
Look at that on the air. That is recorded. Everyone can hear that. And
but
that
I was
would be
really
brilliant
nervous
for
about
when
this
I tell my
podcast.
story in a little bit, Joe.
I was nervous about this podcast because I was wondering how many times we'll have to bleep, and I wonder if there's going to be any actual content because there might be so much swearing going on. But I'm really impressed at how much lack of swearing there is at the moment.
I think context is important though, because it's, like I said, there's that relaxing situation. It depends how I'm trying to portray myself, and because there'll be rooms I'll sit in where that it's completely inappropriate. That's not what I need to be doing. I'm might be reporting on something, I don't know, or something with external people. There's a time and a place for it, and it's knowing, like I said, it's a tool in that arsenal to use it in the right way at the right time, I would say.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
Go on, Ryan.
I was going to say, no, I agree.
Yeah, don't fucking overdo it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Me and Joe spoke about it a few days ago, last week actually, and I always found that the more hierarchical my meetings become, the more swearing seems to be involved. But yet, when it goes down, they're told not to, and I always found that element of it quite interesting in any business that I've worked in. I've sat in meetings with some heads of and directors, and they don't mind throwing out the odd swear word. But then if it's further down the line, as such, if that's how you want to describe it, it seems to be unacceptable, and I kind of found that a little bit strange. As some people can and some people can't, if that makes sense.
That's why, again, I think it's good introducing it, because again, you do that leveling thing. We'll talk, Joe, when you're uncomfortableness, if it's all right to talk about it, can I tell the story from a few years? I think I've told the story on the podcast anyway.
Go on, yeah, I'm happy. I said, I'm all right with everything. It's fine. Anything up on the podcast, go for it.
So this was years ago, wasn't it, Joe? You gone into an area of the business where you were going to run a session to kind of, it's an area that was struggling, and you were going to help them kind of get motivated, get on board, get some ideas about what they're doing. And you spoke to me about it. He's like, just for some advice on how to lay out the meeting and that, because I've been in the business for a while and I knew, the people and lay of land and everything. And my suggestion to you, Joe, was along the lines of, this isn't pure in my memory, but you were going to kind of, because they were kind of expecting you to come in and be formal and regimented and stuff, I believe, not because they knew you, but just because you were a new person coming in, and set the tone. I said, well, do that, lean into that. I didn't say that at the time. I stole that phrase from you doing the podcast. But to kind of set up a room, be standing in there, have your jacket on and a whiteboard up, and stand up and, be formal as they all come into the room, and they'd all sit down. And then there was something about you doing a bit of a preamble, getting people to talk about what's going on at the moment, write some stuff up on the board about their problems, start getting the angst out. And I said, the moment you change it is, once kind of people have got those initial angst out, is you were to, body language, take your jacket off, hang it on the chair and say, right, let's sort this shit out. And you were really with me until I said the word shit and your face went white. And you're like, and I think you said, I don't think I could do that. And I think you completely bought the premise. It was just the use of the word. And I think we met in the middle and you said crap, I think, didn't you, when you did it or something?
I did. But yeah,
and again, I'm not knocking you on it, because again, everyone has their own style. And I think and I don't know this is what you're going to link into. I think a good message in this is about being authentic to you and your personality, because it's part of me. And I think I'd come across as being stifling myself if I didn't, and people can pick up on that subconsciously. And the same for you. I think if you started doing it out of character, again, people will pick up on you. And I think it's important that people can be comfortable being themselves, and people are receptive to it, and you do it in the right way, and you're quite authentic. So I'm not saying you should have done it, but it was definitely a pushing your boundaries type of situation. I remember I think you were pleased that you said crap and you'd done it in that way, and it got the right reaction in the room. It did kind of suck the tension out and everything, didn't it? So it works as a method, and you used it, but staying authentic to yourself, that you did not need to press that explicit language button for people that are in the room.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I think it does. I mean, if I did start swearing, you think, what's going on? You know, people would pick up. And if I was forcing it, I think people pick it up, and I can't force it. But it does. They do pop out, but when maybe it's a little bit more emotionally extreme. If there's something that I really need to put across, I'll use it then. But then it's much more powerful, I feel, if I do it at that point, because they're not used to it. And then I use it, then it gets even more attention, because, well, that's a different sort of approach. But yeah, it's just not me. I don't swear at any time, really. I don't really swear at home. I don't swear anywhere unless I'm, emotionally charged. But yeah, any views from you guys? Lee, Ryan?
I do it in different environments. I would say, and like you said, you've not been at home. So with my mum, I wouldn't say I don't swear, as in it's not a conscious thought, or I don't swear in front of my mum, but I don't naturally in my language, because we didn't really growing up. And my mum didn't do that a lot. My dad swears all the time. So there's a lot more of that round. And it's not a conscious decision. It's like an environment thing, because of what you get used to. Because like you said, like how you're raised and stuff like that. So I think there's not conscious thoughts about it, but I will definitely tailor my language depending where I am on different kind of just what the accepted tone is, I suppose. And so, some situations I can control that, or I'm responsible for setting it, and other ones I'm part of it, and I kind of go with the flow with it.
Yeah. Any views on that, guys? Where's Ryan?
I think it's just what you're comfortable with, right?
I think that's exactly what it is. Whereas you said you mentioned when you talked about it, about coming into new environments and stuff like that, and it helps set the right tone and introduce you to people and do that whole humanizing thing. So where you worked before the job we're talking about now, is that a tactic you employed there as well in what you did, and you kind of brought it over with you, or was it a change you made when you changed?
No, so I've always sworn. My environment at home is the same. My parents swore. We're very much an Irish family that swear constantly, and I'm very still used to that. But I did have to be a little bit more careful in previous roles, because I was an English teacher at one stage for young kids. So
probably not so appropriate then.
Yeah. Although I would have liked to occasionally throw out swear words, I had to remember where my place was, where I was. But do you mind if I just flip the question real quick to Joe?
Of course.
How does he feel about other people that do swear if he doesn't? I get that he doesn't, and that's fine. I kind of accepted that. I've been trying a long time to try and get him to swear. He doesn't fucking do it. Okay. But how does he feel about other people? If you're sitting in a room and then suddenly that person like me starts swearing all the time, does it diminish my my work professionalism, shall I say?
No, it doesn't. For me, it's just been, I pick up this your genuineness. I think that's where it comes from. You can usually tell someone just putting on a front and trying to do it, but that's just you. And for me, no, I just accept people for who they are and what they do. If it's in a training room, I'd have to be a bit more careful. I'd have to sort of maybe, depending on how the response was in the room, I might pick that up. But when we're like out in work or generally and people are using it, and it's, I'm fine with it, because it's part of, for some people it's, you Wes, that's part of you. It's your it's you, isn't it? It's like it wouldn't be anything anyone else. If you started going, right, I'm not. If Wes wasn't swearing, like, what's going on? Like, it's just not like Lee said. It's being authentic, isn't it? And I think people pick up on that, and that's where I was. I don't at all. I've had friends that just every other word is F-bombs. And Lee, I think you know what I'm talking about. Literally, that is their language. It's like every other word is that. It's like, but we talk and it's fine, you know, and it's okay. No, I've got nothing against it at all. I think it's sometimes be very passionate. So for me, no, absolutely fine. You know, and I said to you now, I'll be uncomfortable in this podcast, but actually I feel good at the minute. I feel all right. It feels good.
Look at you, Joe.
I'm surprised that there's not much swearing going on.
Space. I like it.
I'm putting myself out there with it. I am. But that's my answer, Wes. How does that sit with you?
No, you know, it's the perfect answer. I think it's an example of you just appreciating what other people are like in terms of their personality and accepting that, where some people won't, and that's why I just wanted to ask to see where you'd go with it, really.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same experience for you, Wes, or anyone on it, but I've never found an issue with it. And again, it's using it in the right tone, in the right place, because I always do it. It's like humorously and tongue in cheek. Almost the better mood I'm in, the more I'll do it. Whereas if I was delivering a serious message or telling us the wrong thing, but you know, when you've got to say, look, this hasn't gone how it needs to go, or those sort of conversations, then I wouldn't normally do it in that environment, because I think that's almost in an aggressive way. But then in the cheerier, happier, relaxing, casual environment, that's where it then starts to happen. And I don't think, well, to my knowledge, no one's ever reacted negatively to that when it's happened. I think it's just it's like it's treating adults like adults sort of situation, isn't it? You know, you all talk on the level, you all have respect for each other, again, this is adults like adults, and I think generally people respond positively to that.
Yeah, when you said about when things go wrong and people use the swearing, I've seen that. Not in my recent career, but back in the day, and I thought that it did, like you said, it come across as really aggressive.
Yeah, that's because I think that's not the appropriate way to use it. You know, it's not an intimidation thing. It's completely the opposite for me.
Well, in fact, I'll tell you the story just quickly. It was actually when I was in a establishment where I was like washing up, and I was probably about 17, and it was like head chefs would just go, what the going on here, F-bombs all over the place, and I was quite young. And again, that might contribute to why I don't use it, because I've had that experience where people use it when things go wrong. What the is going on? Well, I'm just doing that.
You're doing a great job on censoring yourself right now, Jay.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's maybe the reason. Maybe that's another reason, just thinking when you said about the aggressiveness of it all. I think, it depends on context, but yeah, that was my view. Sorry, I interrupted you. I just wanted to
No, it's good. I think this is this is a really good viewpoint conversation. Obviously, we get between the three of us. We've got a fourth view on as well. It'd be, I think a good one to put out there. Hopefully, a lot of people listening and watching this kind of resonates with them. And again, and I'll come to you for what yours is in a minute. But for me, Joe, this is definitely a message really about being authentic to yourself and being comfortable of understanding why you do what you do, what is being conscious of that impact on people, but ultimately, being you and having good intentions and do it in the right way. But you said, Joe, you were going to link it back to an inspirational message, and you gave us a teaser at the start of the show. So because
there are people that swear that are really inspirational, right? And I'm going to quote one of your favorite people, Lee.
Is it a
Gary V?
Yeah.
Gary V. Now, if you watch his reels, he swears all the time. He says he swears in his family, but when he does it, it's really impactful. It's like you really are on board. And I love his message. And again, he swears, but I watch his content.
But I think he comes across as really genuine and passionate when he does it in the message.
Yeah. So it can inspire people. And that's why I'm sort of coming back to that whole thing. But it's part of him. It's not like it's like what Wes was saying and you were saying and everyone was saying here, that it's got to be authentic. It can't be just me going, like, I can't be a Gary V and start swearing. That's just not me. And people would see right through that and it'd be really inauthentic. But, you watch Gary V, I don't know if you watched him, Wes, but he's like super authentic and just like absolutely swears like a trooper, but it just gets the message across and it's really impactful. But yeah, that was my teaser.
I'd say quickly, it's a complete sidebar, but a few years ago, Gary Vee, this is when you got me to start watching this stuff, Joe, he was all over pushing trading cards. So, you know, from any sport, doesn't matter what it is, football, baseball, blah, 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 trading cards. And he was like, this is where the money's going to be. And my God, that world, like, especially in the last 12 months, has exploded. He was so onto something there. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. He does know what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, I think he influences it though as well, because he's got so much influence. I think he brings that and also because of the way he does it. I think he influences. And again, when we talk about influencers and things like that, again, you're drawn to these sort of people. And natural wouldn't be normally drawn to that type of person, but because he's so authentic, I am drawn and inspired by what he says. So, yeah, so there you go. So even though I may not like swearing, or no, I'm not that I don't dislike it, but
you
I don't
said
use
the word
it
awkwardly there. I like that.
Yeah. It's part of nature, and like, you know, I'm sitting with Wes and we might have a drink or whatever, and he's swearing away, and it's fine. We're all good. It's fine, you know. And in fact, you know, when I've had a few, he's caught me swearing, you know, and you know, I've get quite emotional.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds very good. This has been a really good conversation. I thank you both, obviously, Wes for coming and joining the show, and Joe for suggesting this, of bringing your conversation and sharing it with us, because I think it's been a great thought-provoking chat. Hopefully it's been really good for those listening and watching on YouTube as well. Before I wrap us up though, obviously I just want to check, Wes, was there any other questions or thoughts you had before I bring this to a close here, as you've been kind enough to come on?
I will just add really quickly, for me, it all kind of stems back to, you know, if you go into that inspirational element of it. I remember one year manager saying to me, good job. And I kind of went, yep, thanks. And he went, no, seriously, what a fucking good job. And that second part of that, or the latter of that, made more of an impact to me than the first part. So I love use it wisely, but it's powerful.
That's a brilliant little clip there. I really like that, to sum that all up there. Right. So everyone out there, nation, we thank you for downloading across all podcast platforms. Gets trickier to say each week. Obviously, look for Jose Noya on YouTube. Check us out on social media at listen to TOIN, and head over to inspirationnation.org.uk, coaching service, Joe's newsletter, and of course the merch store. We are dripping with merch this week. Joe, I think, has got his hoodie on there. I have the new punch in the face hoodie as well. If I don't knock stuff over, there's a mug.
Mine's in the wash, unfortunately.
In the wash. Can use his COVID excuse to not reach over and pick up his mask. It's all going on. Everything you do supports the nation. The biggest thing you can do, if you like what we're doing, tell friends, tell family. There are a lot of people out there right now. We're talking to you. If you are trawling through the archive, we know you like what you're hearing. Tell people about it. Leave us a review. Word of mouth is what grows a nation more than everything else. But once again, Wes, thank you very much for coming on this week. Ryan, thank you for coming on with your COVID to run the tech end. And Joe, you're here to make up the numbers, so thanks for that as well. All that's left for me to do is to count us down, and we'll be back again next week. 3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation.
Inspiration Nation.
Catch you guys later.
So I want to know now, what's your biggest takeaway? Don't forget to hashtag it with Inspiration Nation in the comments below, and make sure you commit to action. Thank you for checking it out. So don't forget you can catch all our other Inspiration Nation podcast episodes right over here. So go check them out. Also, don't forget to subscribe, because that will tell you when your next video goes live by you hitting that amazing bell. So until next time, it's Inspiration Nation, and I'll see you right over there.